Alright, y'all, so I had some really great conversations the other day in response to my questions about why the American obesity epidemic exists. Why did it start in the 1980s? What happened? What caused it? And basically the responses I get were either personal responsibility or lack of activity. Personal responsibility being particularly in regards to child obesity, that it's a form of child abuse and you're just not taking care of your kid, or yourself, but that it's up to you to choose and make healthy choices. And is your kid eating fucking Cheetos every day for breakfast? Like, are you bringing home vegetables? Like, what are you doing? And I get that. I completely felt that way for a long time, but that is another form of the effect. It is not the cause. There's a whole layer behind that. And the other being lack of activity. So we're not like our ancestors. We're not moving like we used to. The majority of us work in offices. We sit down, we watch TV. We don't move our bodies like we need to. But we didn't just start becoming a sedentary society. We didn't just stop hunting and gathering and foraging for food. Mammoths didn't just die. When I think of the 80s, I think of leg warmers and home workout videos and that dude with his taekwondo kickboxing video, all the workout channels. So if anything, the research shows that there was a slight increase in activity. What the research does show is there was a large increase of the amount of food we started eating in the 1980s. So why did we start eating so much out of nowhere? Why did we start eating more than we ever had before? What triggered that? What caused it? What the fuck? So a couple things. Deregulation. One, up until the 1980s, farmers were paid their subsidies based on the amount of land they were not using. In the 1980s, that switched to now their farmers' subsidies depends on the amount of food they produce. So you best believe every farmer is using every inch of the farmland that they own. So now all of a sudden we have way more food than we ever had before. Food surplus. Basically, that amounted to a shit ton of corn and a shit ton of soybeans and a whole lot of farm subsidies. So now the food corporations are like, how the fuck do we sell all this? That's the question. So all that food created an increase of calories in our food supply. We had so much more food, so many more calories available in our food supply as a nation. So that makes the food industries that much more competitive to sell their products. Second form of deregulation is the deregulation of Wall Street. So in the 1980s, we had the shareholder value movement. So the shareholder value movement put pressure on corporations to increase returns to investors and make them immediate returns. So they want more money and they want it today. That forced corporations to grow, and the question became, how do we sell more product in a market that is already saturated at 2 times the average need? We already have a food surplus. How do we sell more food? So to help with that, the third kind of deregulation came along with Reagan in the 1980s, who deregulated marketing. He allowed marketing directly to children that was never allowed before. Also allowed deregulation of health claims, of funding, of authority, of the FDA. All kinds of deregulation. Also deregulation of dietary supplements. So basically at the end of all of this, we have a food surplus, which creates cheap food, which leads people to eat out more, and we all know there's more calories when we eat out, and we just tend to eat more also. And most of that was fast food. After all that deregulation, the second major thing to happen was the increase of food portions. So we have all that food surplus, so they had to find new ways of selling it. So food started being sold in stores that don't even sell food. Home Depot. Office Depot. Whatever. The depots. Fucking furniture stores. Staples. Selling food. Like, that seems so common nowadays, but that was never a thing. So basically, their marketing team, or the scientists that work for them, are aware of how our bodies work. So when, have you ever had that where, like, you walk by some food, like, you didn't even know you were hungry until you saw someone's plate, or you saw a picture of food, and you're like, damn, I gotta have that? They're aware that when our body sees food, there's a chemical reaction in our brain that sends a signal to your mouth, which then sends a signal to your stomach, like, hey, food is coming, let's get ready. Your stomach sends a signal back to your brain, like, I'm ready, let's go. If you've ever made a decision or a purchase or eaten anything out of that state, you have been controlled. You are being controlled. You are being manipulated. Your body, your system, like your natural way of being, is being taken advantage of, usually without our awareness. That's their marketing paying off. That is done on purpose. That is done by design. They want you to buy it. They just won. We just voted with our dollar. We paid, and that's a whole other thing. But, like, does that make any sense? So anyway, so the Department of Commerce conducted a price point plot index. And what they found is that the price of fruit and vegetables have increased 40%. Have increased 40%, while the price of butter, beer, and soda have decreased by 15%. That is all up to government support and subsidization. Subsidization? That is all up to government support and subsidization. Food companies, at the end of the day, were facing advocates, regulations, lawsuits, Wall Street. Everybody was putting pressure on them. And they could respond in a few ways. Either doing nothing, denying, changing the product, right? So because of those regulations, they were allowed to start making health claims, functional foods, and self-endorsements. Basically all bullshit. Or fight back, lobby, attack advocates, blame personal responsibility, and blame inactivity. It's not our fault. You should know better. You should choose. You should be moving more. You should just walk away from our product. Do you see how that's like psychological warfare? Just to put some things in perspective, food and beverage advertising reports from Ad Age reported how much several companies spent on advertising in 2012. Guess how fucking much Coca-Cola spent on advertising in 2012. I'm sure it's gone up. I feel like Dora waiting for a response. Bruh. $267 million. $267 million. Like, that is not a number that makes sense in my brain. I don't know how to take that. Like, what is it? I don't even know what that means. It's too big. I don't know it. I'm not around that kind of money. I don't really know what it means, but it's a fucking lie. That's what I know, right? It's a fucking lie. What I also know is that for that number to make sense to them, they have to be bringing in double, triple, at least in revenue. Those numbers have to make sense. 267 million has to make sense for them to spend on advertising, not production, advertising. That's crazy. 113 million Gatorade. 51 million Pop-Tarts. 42 million Frosted Flakes, and 35 million Tostitos. And another thing, health claims from food companies, right? So the deregulations from Reagan in the 1980s allowed them to make wild fucking health claims that make no fucking sense, that just aren't true. But they can just say shit. They can twist the truth to make it seem like something it's not, right? So studies show that like health claims on a package make consumers believe that it's low calorie. People think something is healthy because they see some type of health claim on there. Right, like being able to say, good source of vitamin D on Fruity Pebbles, 0 trans fat on Skippy peanut butter, organic gummy bears. That shit's wild. So that's what I've been learning, and I love to share because that shit fucking blew my mind. And if it matters to anybody else, that shit's out there and it's crazy. And to me, it's all about taking our power back. It's about realizing how we're being controlled, realizing how certain communities are specifically targeted, aka Black, Indigenous, poor, basically the non-majority people. And that's a whole nother fucking topic. A whole nother topic is school lunches, because that's some bullshit too. So like really thinking about why we eat what we eat, why we make those decisions. Where do they come from? Do they come from us, or do they come from a subconscious implant from a company? Like, are we fucking sheep in certain areas of our life that we don't realize? And it's okay, you know what I mean? Like, we all are in some way. That's a symptom of being a part of society. But we have all the information that we need in these days to take our power back and to learn, realize where we've just been following, where we're being controlled, and take our fucking power back. That's what I am learning to do, trying to do, fighting to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's fucking worth it. And yeah, so I appreciate y'all that had conversations with me. I hope we can keep having fucking conversations, because I feel like that's where change happens. Let's just fucking talk about it. Let's fucking do something. Like, it just makes me so excited when I have one good conversation with just one person. And I had so many this time. And let's fucking keep doing it, y'all. I'm proud of us. We get to choose the direction of our lives, where we're going, what we're doing. Like, we're creating our DNA, not just for us, but for our children. We pass our DNA along to our children. What are we giving them? Fucked up Cheeto DNA? Or are we giving them live, electric, healthy, non-damaged RNA? Whole nother topic. I got lots of topics. It's fucking cold. Yeah.